We're going to explore some ideas about asynchronous sessions, which are often combined with synchronous sessions, which sometimes can run after an asynchronous session. There's a lot of moving parts here. Well, we're going to explore this a little bit further. So, asynchronous sessions are what most people think of online learning. This is where you go to a page, you go to learning management system, you might have a video, you've got a list of instructions, you've got all these activities, you fill out these, it's the traditional direct instruction, it's the traditional tutorial, it's the traditional content on a website or a learning management system. That's the asynchronous part that most people view or think about when they think of online learning. And that is an important part. Now, in the intro, I mentioned that you have to connect this to the synchronous session. And there's some key ideas that we hope people are going to explore. I find that one of the things that I like to do is quite often point people to some resources, an asynchronous opportunity, and they take a look at those resources, like a video and maybe a post. And then when they come to my synchronous session, they can go a lot deeper. They can explore and they can build that relationship in that synchronous session, and they can ask the questions and they can actually, clarify things and get involved in what we do best, communicate and collaborate. So thoughts on the asynchronous and synchronous perspectives.
Yeah, you want to be very purposeful about what you add to your async sessions. They should support your synchronous sessions in some way if you choose to put them together. But you don't want to have people go into information overload. Too many videos, too many resources, too many links. Where do I start? None of us like that. And there's research behind that. It says cognitive overload. We can only remember so many things at a time, right? So let's pick 2 to 3 really important pieces. And I encourage folks to just test and experiment with this. Is it too much? Is it not enough? Where's the balance? What do my learners have to say to me in response to what I shared, right? And so we use those resources as discussion points, talking points in our synchronous sessions, right? And that's how we collaborate and work together as we work through some of those materials. And we don't want, again, we want to be really cognizant of how much we put in there. We don't want to overload people, and we want to be very purposeful in how we use our async sessions. We want to get the maximum learning opportunities for our kids that we can.
So it's interesting. We want to be careful about the content, and so we're encouraging less is actually better. But what about this idea that we have to cover the content? We have to cover all that content. Um, do we? Or do we have to actually work towards our learning outcomes or our learning goals? And I think this is where people can run into trouble. They get focused on delivering content and building activities as opposed to, well, what do I really need my learner to do after this? You know, session of instruction, what are they going to be able to do? What are they going to take into the real world? And what are they going to be able to do with this instruction? And so I think it's really important whenever you're doing any type of whether it's synchronous or asynchronous instruction, that you do take a look at that your goals are aligned to the learning outcomes within the body of instruction, the course, or whatever it is that you're working with. And if you align and focus on the goals in terms of where you're taking your learner, as opposed to the activity or the content, well, then those asynchronous sessions can actually be very, very powerful. And quite often, less is more. Now, for some of the students who want to go deeper, you can obviously add additional resources where they can explore and go deeper because people work at different levels. So the key thing I think hearing here is that you make it real. Less is sometimes more. You want to have a balance, and it can be quite effective. Now, we still have to deal with this issue. Which is first? Which is better? Should you do a synchronous session all on its own, or can it be disconnected from the async, or do they have to be connected? Is there any magic formula on that? What are your thoughts?
No magic formula. One before the other is really up to you. What works best for those learning outcomes that you need to work with your students on to get them where they need to be? And while you were talking, just to go back to something I thought of, 15, 20-minute videos, you always got to think about your learner. They're going to be snoozing. Break things up into chunks. Break things up into short, sweet chunks, because guess what? Next year, the curriculum may change. And if you do 13, 15-minute videos every single week, you're going to bog yourself down. It's going to be a bit too much. Short little chunks, snippets, flip grids, have the kids respond to the flip grid. Have fun with the tools that are out there and available to you. So with that being said, going back to your question, I don't think that you need to have one or the other. Figure out what works best for your learner. Test and retest things. Oh, this work better synchronous? Do we need to have a synchronous session with this or an asynchronous session? What am I really asking my learner to be able to do? And what's the best method of getting there? And when you ask that question, the answer is right before you. Okay, I need to do a sync for that or an async for that. I can do this.
So just to confirm, what I'm hearing is that you need to find a balance, and the balance between the asynchronous and the synchronous is going to be dependent upon your learning outcomes and your learner and your audience and the group that you're working with. And quite often, you might do one thing one way and then do it again a different way for a different audience, or you switch back and forth and you can explore and experiment. And I think that's a key. In the professional learning environments that we set up for our learners, the goal is to explore, to experiment, to make all those mistakes because that's part of learning, to
Mhm.
fail forward, to have some
Mhm.
fun and to see what really can happen because learning online can be an amazing experience if we explore and if we experiment and we get that balance right. When do we know when we get it right? Well, we keep on testing, we keep on exploring, we keep on experimenting. So, on the note of watching our time, these 10-minute videos, I think unless I've missed something, maybe we should end on this note. Is there anything else we need to cover?
I think we got it.